All right, we welcome you back inside the booth where we continue our trip around the state of Georgia talking with college football's coaches here in state. And we stopped down in Statesboro, Georgia. Clay Helton on the show with us today. Coach, we appreciate the time and the opportunity to talk about your Eagles program.
Thanks, Bryce. Really appreciate you having me.
Well, Coach, let's kind of just get into this. It's this the schedule of college football is absolutely nuts. We've talked with so many coaches about how they manage it and everything, but I wanted to lead this off with you right here. You're obviously kind of in a groove down there in Statesboro, getting into a spot where you're feeling more comfortable. Leaving spring ball, where do you feel like the status of this program is from where when you joined to now a few years in?
Yeah, definitely. I think by far our deepest football team that we're having entering the 24 season. We're able to get our third recruiting cycle in. We had a little short one, coming into that first year. We're able to be able to produce a postseason play. We copied that last year to being a bowl team again. And now it's about being a conference contender for a conference championship. And it's really been built on those recruiting cycles. By far our best football team entering 24. I think it's going to be ultra important to be able to select a quarterback, come fall camp, and that quarterback have consistent play all the way through the season. And I think we will put ourselves right back where we were last November, where we're sitting there in November in first place, controlling our own destiny, and need to finish. I'm looking forward. We've done a great job of building trust and relationships with our players over the last 2 years. You've not seen a ton of attrition from our football team. Our guys are really kind of partnered with Georgia Southern and Statesboro, Georgia. Love this place, and they love this team. And now we put our best foot forward come our 24 season.
You talk about attrition, and obviously we talk about the day and age of college football. And I was talking with a couple other coaches at the Group of Five level and even down at the FCS level about this. And it can be a daunting task when we see where this sport is heading. But wanted to get your viewpoint. You mentioned not a lot of attrition. What do you feel like you guys are doing differently, maybe in that player relationship category, that's allowing for you to have some continuity where other places may not have that liberty?
Yeah, it's really important in today's time in college football. I think more than ever, I've done it. This is going to be my 30th season in college football. And I think one of the most important things we do as coaches in today's time is building trust and relationships, not only with the players but their families, to be able to see that you do have a place where they can get a dynamic education, that they can be developed not only as a professionally off the field but on the field also, and being able to show that care and concern on a daily basis to build relationships. That we're not in a business. We are college football. We're not pro football. That we're able to grow young men into true professionals when they leave us. And so we've done a really good job. The consistency of staff has really been important. I think, especially going into our third year, to have Brandon Bailey back as our defensive coordinator to keep that system the same. Our special teams coordinator and Turner West, who I think does an amazing job going into his third season. And then Ryan Applin, who we had planned all along, being able to get him from his alma mater, Arkansas State, be our pass game coordinator, knowing, the talent that Brian Ellis had as our coordinator. He moves to Alabama. The system doesn't change. You just raise Ryan Applin up. And so that consistency of system, I think, has really played into, and the consistency of coaching has played into keeping guys here. And it's really put us in a great position leading into the 24 season.
On the coaching side of things, this carousel that has seemingly lasted longer into the spring each and every single year. You mentioned the continuity with your staff. Does that allow you to sleep a little bit easier at night, knowing, hey, we have some continuity, we have some familiarity? So when you get on the field in the fall, the lingo, the terminology, these guys on the roster are comfortable, and you're comfortable delegating to the guys you have on your staff.
Yeah, no question. I think one of the biggest things for young people, the biggest fear they have is fear of the unknown. And when you do, have change of staff, and if you had regular turnover, that's hard on them. But to be able to build relationships, not only in that locker room, but build relationships with the coaches and their families, I think it's ultra important in today's time. Roster management has become a huge thing as far as a head coach and a staff. Over 30 years, I've seen college football adapt in so many ways, and we have to adapt. as coaches. And I think it's ultra important now to be able to have those relationships and build that trust, and to be able to have coaches that are bought into what you're doing and the path that you're on. I think we've put ourselves in an unbelievable position to do successful things in the future.
Coach, obviously, with where our show's based, where you guys are based, the SEC and the ACC, to a certain extent, maybe dominate the national headlines. But on our show, we always talk about the Sun Belt. We've got a couple grads that work for us, and they love it. The regionality that this conference has maintained has made it one of the more exciting conferences to watch. You mentioned you get into the month of November with a chance to play for a title. You maintain some of the fun rivalries. When you arrived into the Sun Belt Conference as Georgia Southern's head coach, what are some things that maybe surprised you, some things you didn't know coming in that now 2-3 years into this thing, you're like, man, this is a pretty special conference to be a part of and take place in each and every single year?
Well, without question, Bryce, it is unbelievable how special this conference is. Is what drew me to this job. Is 2 years ago when you saw all these conferences breaking up, what did you see from Commissioner Gill and our presidents in the Sun Belt? They kept it together. Plus, they were adding teams to be able to strengthen the conference. You bring in JMU that had an amazing season last year. You bring in a conference champion in Marshall from Conference USA, an historic program in Southern Miss, and a really strong program in ODU. You just bolstered it. So when you do go have that season, you do your job, and you do have a conference title and have an amazing season within this premier group of five conference, and what I think is the best group of five conference that's out there, you're talked on the national light, and part of that 12-team playoff discussion. That's our ultimate job. And to be here at Georgia Southern, man, to have the capability of recruiting the state of Georgia and bring in that type of talent, a natural recruiting base, that's why I loved the job. I really thought that, hey, why can't this be the next Cincinnati or the next Tulane or the next Central Florida and be on a national spotlight stage? And so you look at that, and all of a sudden you have a great win at Nebraska. You have a top 25 win. You go and beat a rival, your rivalry teams in App State in your first year, Georgia State last year. This conference is ultra special, and that region of 10 states, it produces natural rivalries. I've seen it with App State, with Georgia State. Every week seems like it's the Super Bowl. And it makes it a lot of fun, not only for our players, but also our coaches.
We're here with Clay Helton, Georgia Southern's head coach. Coach, you mentioned just a couple of the programs that are seemingly doing it right, at the group of five level. I wanted to ask you, how much do you maybe look at their blueprint, but also stay true to who you are as a coach? I mean, like you said, you've done this long enough that you're always going to change things, to adapt. But how much do you really take in, hey, this is a blueprint they're using. How do we make it our own version of what they're doing?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's so important, Bryce, maybe to look at also what has been successful here at your own place, because we are in different states and different recruiting bases. When I came here, I thought, when you talk about Irk Russell and you talk about Paul Johnson and what they accomplished here, you look at their blueprint and being able to, one, recruit the state of Georgia and the attached states. You look at us right now in this transfer portal world, we've signed high school talent. We've signed 61 high school football players in the last 3 recruiting cycles. We've signed the most players of any FBS school of high school players in the state of Georgia. And they have really built a quality football team. So to be able to, I think one of the things you got to do is look at the past and be able to see that blueprint that produced 6 national championships here at the FCS level. And so we have followed that. Now, we're all pirates of this game, and I'm definitely count myself in as a pirate. You look at successful programs. You don't get comfortable. You don't get stagnant. You're able to look across the country at both Group of 5 and Power 5 level. That's what we want to be, is look like a Power 5 entity. And so you do bring in and try to get better each and every year. Like I said, coming in here, we were going to honor all the traditions of Georgia Southern, but fight like hell for innovation in the way we recruit, the way we train our players, the way we run our systems. And I think that's what every good coach does. And they adapt and they try to get better each and every year.
Coach, taking a look here, way too early, I guess we can talk about. There's still plenty of months for the 2024 season.
Mhm.
Wanted to kind of get this question because we've been asking this to every single coach. There's different things that constitute a successful spring practice. A lot of coaches say it's going to be health. It's going to be let's stay healthy, let's get through the spring and get into summer workouts for these guys. But
Yeah.
what are some of the maybe characteristics that you're seeing early on and things that you want this identity to be for this 2024 version of Georgia Southern?
Yeah, I think the springtime has become your best opportunity to establish your culture and to be able to protect your culture. I've always thought that if you can't say your culture, if everybody in the building can't say your culture, you don't have one. For us here at Georgia Southern, it's toughness, discipline, and being united. And to be able to have an 8-week strength and conditioning program in the winter that leads into spring football, this is your opportunity to use all 8 of those practices that you get the full speed tackle to work the fundamentals and the discipline of those fundamentals in a physical and mental toughness arena. That may not be able to be done as much as when you get to fall training camp and closer to the season. So you're looking at the things that can help not only grow and develop players on the field, but also your culture. Are you bringing the physical and mental toughness to the table? Are you making sure that your kids are disciplined and accountable for what they do, not only for themselves, but for their teammates around you? And are you producing a team over self attitude? And I think spring has been so important to be able to get that done, not only in your strength and conditioning, but those 15 practice sets that we get in spring are invaluable over that 5-week period of time. It really sets the tone for you going into the fall.
You talk about development. A lot of people talk about, especially if you're kind of outside, we'll just, kind of be honest. If you're not one of the programs that's
Mhm.
vying in that college football playoff for the past couple of years, a lot of people talk about those bowl game practices being massive for development and taking those seriously. Have you seen, would you say that's the kind of the same with those spring practices as well, saying, hey, we need to take each and every single opportunity we get to get better on the football field?
Yeah, definitely. I hope, Bryce, that we continue the bowl system and format. It's so good for kids to be able to have that additional time and the reward of playing in postseason. I know a lot of attention goes into the playoff and the playoff system, but the bowl opportunities, not only for the communities that host them, but for the teams and the fan bases that get to go there, it's ultra exciting. Each one that I've ever been a part of has been an unbelievable experience. But it also helps you that 3-4 weeks that you get to be able to grow a football team during that time. It is like gaining an extra spring. So it's something that I hope will continue as we progress and adapt as a college football family, and be able to still have that postseason play for members that don't make that 12-team playoff.
Coach Clay Helton, Georgia Southern. One final question for you here, Coach. We talked with Shane Beamer a couple weeks back about this, and he offered some insight and wanted to get your thoughts too, because you've been at different levels before.
Mhm.
You've seen this sport change.
Mhm.
The calendar of what we have for your coaching staff, how do you maintain, hey, be with your families, but this right now is a 365, 24/7 industry we're in, if not more than it was a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
with all the different things. How do you manage that personally with your staff? Keep your guys fresh and understanding, hey, family time's important, but
Mhm.
also this is a business we're in too.
Yeah, we chose this way of life. I remember coming into it 30 years ago, and my dad looking me in the eye, who had been a 50-year NFL and college coach, and said, "Son, understand, you're choosing a way of life." And one thing I always tell our coaches is, just like he told me, he said, write down your 3 priorities in life. And it's been used many times, but mine were my faith, my family, and the game. And that's all I do. There's not a lot of hobbies that go on. There's not a lot of going out with guys or anything. It's about being with your family when you get those windows of opportunity. My dad did it with me. I'll never forget, having the opportunity. Every free second he got, he went and grabbed me and my brother Tyson, who's the head coach at Western Kentucky, and we were going hunting and fishing. And it wasn't the amount of time, the quantity of time. It was the quality of of time. And so it is important, I think, as head coaches that we still provide those window of opportunities within, a 365 calendar, that when we get those opportunities that we give them to our coaches, and then we try to push them as much as we can to be able to go make sure that they are family guys. And that's I think that's an important part when you're passing along something from a head coach to a position coach.
That's some great insight right there. Clay Helton, head coach of Georgia Southern. Coach, we appreciate the time today. We look forward to seeing what you guys put on the field in 2024. And, man, can't wait to see what the Sun Belt Conference looks like. We always call it a bloodbath. It's a bunch of teams trying to get to a certain spot, and it's a really, really fun time to watch that conference. We can't wait to see what the Eagles do. We appreciate the time, Coach.
Bryce, thank you so much. Hail Southern.